In this video, we are going to be ordering or comparing fractions using fraction strips and number lines. So our last tutorial, we were able to compare fractions that had the same numerator. Well, looks like these fraction strips have the same numerator. So do you remember what we learned about that? Same numerator. With the same numerator, we've got to look at that denominator. We have to see what parts are bigger because we only have one part of each of them. So our top one, we have 1, 2, 3, total of 6 parts. Our second one, we have a total of 4 parts. And our bottom one, we only have 2 parts. So do you remember what we learned? We learned that the greater the denominator, the smaller the parts. So if I only have 1 out of 6 parts, that's going to be a smaller piece than 1 out of 2. So I can use my fraction strips, make sure that they're lined up, and I can compare them. So which of these is the smallest? Which one takes up the least amount of space in that hole? 1/6 is the smallest. So 1/6 is my smallest. And what's my next smallest? The 1/4 is my next smallest. And my largest is 1/2. So the greater the denominator, the smaller the pieces. So if all those numerators are the same, we're going to see which denominator is the smallest number. And that's going to tell me that that's the biggest piece. So we can look at our fraction or our number lines and do this similarly. Now, the start of our number line is labeled as what? We label it as 0. And we have to count our number of pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This number line is broken up into 6 parts. So my denominator is a 6. And if I count all of those parts in my number line, every single one, that's 6/6, which is the same thing as 1 whole. Same thing here. The whole thing is 1 whole. 1 whole split into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts is what fraction? 4/4. 1 whole split into 1, 2 parts is 2/2. Remember with fractions, this line right here means divided by. 2 divided by 2, 1. 4 divided by 4, 1. 6 divided by 6, you got it. See how that works? So now now we need to label these. So 1 jump on my number line out of 6 jumps possible is 1/6. Another one, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. 1/2 and 2/2. So if we had some plots on these points, here's a plot, here's a plot, and here's a plot. Which fraction is plotted on the sixths? That is 2/6. On the fourths, 3/4, and on the halves, 1/2. So which of these is the largest? The largest is 3/4 because it comes furthest on the number line. The next largest is 1/2 because it's next largest furthest away from the 0 on the number line. And our smallest on the number line is 2/6. So that is how we can compare fractions using our number lines and our fraction strips. Take it a little bit further. What if I have a number line that goes from 0 to 2? And this number line is split into fourths. And this number line is split into halves. So my 1 whole is what's split into fourths. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Keep going with that. 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, and 8/4. This one was split into halves. 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves. Now, just like we did up here, we said that that line means divided by. It means divided by here too. It means divided by with all of these. So 4 divided by 4 is what? 1. We got it. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Let's go to our other whole number. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. What about over here? We have 4/4 as our 1 whole. So instead of saying 4/4, we could say 1 whole instead. If we stuck with that 1 whole, we could say our 5/4 is 1 whole and 1/4. 1 and 1/4. And we kept going with that. 1 and 2/4. 1 and 3/4. 1 and 4/4. Same here. This is our 1 whole. 1 whole and 1/2. 1 whole and 2 halves. So when you have a numerator that's larger than the denominator, that's called your improper fraction. And this is called our mixed number because it has a whole number and a fraction. So if we were to plot some points and we were to compare them, how does 1 whole compare to 1 and 1/4? This only has 1 whole, and this has 1 whole and 1/4. Therefore, the 1 and 1/4 is larger.